I am ready when you guys are.
All right, going to call the meeting, thanks. Everybody make sure your mics are on. Call this meeting of the Groveland Conservation Commission for Wednesday, February 11th, 2026 to order. All in favor of starting the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have no remote members joining us tonight, so we don't need to do roll call votes. All right, so we have our agenda before us, and the first item on the agenda is a notice of intent, and I'll read it. 394 transmission line and B154, C155 King Street, tap line right of way, BSC Group applicant on behalf of New England Power Company, who is the owner. Applicants are seeking a notice of intent for maintenance and improvement activities associated with the refurbishment of the power transmission line within an existing utility right-of-way. All right, so I'll turn it over to...
Good evening. My name is Hannah Raddatz, wetland scientist with BSC.
Is the mic on over there?
It says red is mute, but I don't see a red light.
Is it green?
It doesn't say green either. It's not showing green either.
Not
Oh,
sure.
maybe
There it
it's
is.
Oh, there.
Oh,
Perfect.
flash check. Can you hear this mic, Marlene?
Yeah. Maybe. Here, take mine.
Sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I'll try not to make a mess of this. All right. So there's quite a bit to talk through with this project, so I think I'll just go step by step. So as it was mentioned, this is a utility project. The main focus is, as an asset condition refurbishment project, is the maintenance of various features of the line. So going through this project from start to finish, this project aims to replace various assets, those being structures as well as the circuits that are in poor condition or need to be improved for communication between substations and fiber connectivity. So this project stretches from Ward Hill in Haverhill all the way up to the Amesbury town state line with Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Within Groveland, it's about 3.2 miles of right-of-way. The right-of-way within Groveland contains all three of the lines. In some towns, it does not include them, but in Groveland, you've got the B and C tap, as well as the 394 line that are all co-located on the same right-of-way. So as I mentioned, the purpose of this project is to replace existing assets. Most of the structures that are targeted for this work to be replaced, or all of the structures that are targeted to be replaced, are wooden structures. These have been damaged over time by insect and avian damage, as well as just dealing with harsh winters. So the aim is to replace all of these wooden structures with steel structures of roughly the same size and caliber, to still be able to maintain the circuits that they're supporting, as well as reconductoring the line and doing other maintenance work on the circuits overhead to improve, as I mentioned, the fiber connectivity and substation communication. This is particularly critical within Groveland to establish that improved connection with the King Street substation, which is the terminus of the B and C tap lines. Past King Street, it's just the 394 line, so the B and C dive in at that point and just get catching up. So again, to do this work, the other aim of this project is to improve work paths and to improve access. So we'll break down the different types of access, as you probably noticed on the ER maps and within the narrative. There's a lot of different types, but we can simplify them pretty quickly with a description. But essentially, this right-of-way has gone many years without significant improvements, and this is not not helpful for getting those modern vehicles down if the access roads have eroded to the point where they're too narrow or too bumpy, washed out, eroded and such. So these access roads, the aim is to expand them to be 12 feet wide. And this is in order to get modern construction vehicles on and off the right-of-way, especially those heavy vehicles that need to be carrying the poles and facilitating things like concrete pours for those foundations that are concrete caisson supported. So in all cases, these access roads, if they're not currently 12 feet wide, will be expanded to make that possible. I'll just quickly touch on exemptions. So under the Wetlands Protection Act, a significant amount of these activities are considered exempt. This mainly being structure replacements, as the structures are being replaced in kind, as well as access maintenance. So this is all the cases where the existing access on the right-of-way doesn't need to be expanded, as well as the installation of construction mats to facilitate access and work pads, as well as mowing activities to allow this work to go ahead, the access road work, the work pad improvements and such. So now we'll get into a bit of a slog, so feel free to stop me if you have any questions, because I'm going to be going through all the types of activities that are proposed under this maintenance project, one by one, just to introduce you to them. So the first step, I'll just go into work pads. This is one of the bigger portions of the work that is showing up in those impact numbers. Work pads for this project could be a number of things. They could be mow only, so if they're completely in upland, and there's no grading needed to create a stable work pad to replace these structures, they'll just mow it and establish their sediment and erosion controls around the limits. If it's partially within a wetland, they'll mat that lower part and might grade partially within the work pad to create, again, that stable base. And some
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Can I stop you for a moment?
Yeah.
John, you have this posted as a notice of intent, right? But there's no mention that this is also a Groveland notice of intent. So I don't think we should continue the hearing because it's not posted properly, which is unfortunate. Everything is in order within the package. They filed a application for a Groveland notice of intent right here. It's in the package, but it wasn't posted properly. So I think unfortunately we're going to have to discontinue the hearing.
Well, Mike, would there be a problem?
Informational? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Would there be a problem with just finishing it for just the notice of intent and then continuing to the next month, and then we can have a greatly abbreviated version for the Groveland notice of intent?
Yeah, I think that's possible. I can't think of any reason why it wouldn't be.
I mean, we just wouldn't be voting on the Groveland notice of intent.
Yes, right. And we may have, we may want to do a site visit or whatever. We
Yes.
may need more
How
questions
did you know?
answered.
That's what I was thinking.
So I just wanted to stop and let the commission decide how we want to
thank me later.
proceed. So why don't you make a motion to that effect?
Before you make a motion,
Yes.
this isn't fully exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act, so I'm not understanding fully the procedure. This is a notice of intent under the Wetlands Protection Act as well as Groveland. It's only partially exempt, so it's sort of both.
Yes. It's
But
just
not
that it
singularly.
wasn't posted properly.
For the public.
your fault.
Public
Not your
notice.
Not you.
Nothing to do
Yeah, it's
with.
nothing that you did.
Okay, I'm just trying to avoid
Another.
a continuance. With you all meeting only once monthly, the difficulty, especially with missing last month's hearing, is we have a tight timeline for getting these permits in hand, especially for the BC tap line, as that work has a very tight turnaround. The work is proposed to start as soon as this fall, so we're really hoping to get all of our orders in hand to help finalize the 401 process. So that's our concern with pushing this down the line further.
I don't think there's any solution to that, unfortunately. I think the best we could do is, go through the notice of intent, potentially approve that tonight, and then have to have you come back for the Groveland notice of intent in March. I don't
We
think-
should be able to just focus on the things that are different between the Groveland notice of intent and the state notice of intent, and that way greatly reduce the amount of
Yes.
representation.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And we could maybe even do that through a Zoom call, since you've got all of this here.
Yeah, right, you may not have to come, but I think we're going to have to.
And there's certain
do-
things that you could start in process for the regular notice of intent.
Yeah, you certainly caught me at a good part, because I was just about to break it down one by one, so I can focus on those activities that are subject to the Wetlands Protection Act
Yes.
first,
Yeah.
and then later leave out just those ones that are subject to Groveland
Okay.
bylaw review.
All
Yeah,
right.
Maybe just make a note of that without actually going into them, and then we can focus on that next time.
Yep, thankfully, the notice of intent does break that out in a number of sections. Section 3 is where you get into the most interesting part. That's where it breaks down the impacts that are subject to the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act, as well as specifically Groveland. So those tables in Section 3, I think, are the most helpful. But again, if the commission would like, I'll just get back to breaking down those activities. We'll start with those that are subject to both, and then leave Groveland for last.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Here we go again. All right, so as I was mentioning, these graded work pads, they're subject to review under the Wetlands Protection Act, as well as the Groveland bylaw. These work pad envelopes vary in size. They could be as small as 75 by 75, as big as 150 by 150, but that totally depends on the other resource areas, as well as within this town, we've got adjacent structures. So the BC tap line run just to the south of the 394 line. So in some cases, we combine the work pads to be as efficient as we can with space. And in other cases, we've got gas pipelines. We've cut a number of the pads away from vernal pools, as we have quite a few on this line. So they vary in size quite a bit. But again, the intent for grading these pads is to create a flat work area. That's critically important, especially for the overhead work, and making sure that that foundation is stable and installed properly. So the intent is typically, once you grade a work pad, to place gravel. Most of this gravel will be removed. Within the case of riverfront area, all gravel will be removed. But in the case of buffer zone and NHESP estimated habitat, we'll be leaving a 50 by 50 gravel pad at the base of the structures. The purpose of this is to allow for future maintenance access, because it establishes a flat and solid area for that maintenance work to come in. However, this gravel will be allowed to revegetate, so within a season or two, those grasses will come back up through that seed stock. So the gravel just remains in place as that base, but it will revegetate.
And these are existing work pads that you're adding to?
Yeah, so the work pads, again, just like the rest of the right-of-way, especially the access, they haven't been improved in quite some time, which is why many of these pads have a mixture of mow only, grade only, a partial portion of. They're essentially in need of this improvement to allow for that future maintenance work, be it an emergency or routine, to come in and have to do less preparation work. So less of this grading, less of this impacting, less mowing to access those structures.
And you're purposely avoiding the things like vernal pools?
Yeah, Groveland definitely gave us a creative exercise. There's a lot of vernal pools, and there's a lot of mapped habitat. Most of Groveland is within priority habitat, so we did our best to trim, to optimize, again, with the having multiple structures in the same pad, making sure we're only choosing one access, because as you might have seen on right-of-ways, sometimes it looks like there's multiple trails. With this work, the purpose of the access improvement is to just have one main, the most efficient access to get to these structures and not have excessive expansion of access, just to have that one critical path. So graded pull pads is the next one. This is similar to the graded work pads. This is an area where they'll be pulling the wires. Again, it needs to be flat for them to be able to do this activity of pulling the wires, but it'll be fully restored afterwards. There's no need to maintain the gravel on those pads. The next is a temporary access that doesn't quite sound like it is. It's called improve as necessary. This is a type of access that is critical for the OPGW, so that's optical ground wire. Essentially, this is a wire that is up in the circuits. However, because a portion of this project requires that wire to be underslung, meaning if the circuit wire is up above, they have to be down here rather than up with them. That means it has to be physically pulled to be installed underneath the circuit. So in some cases, the existing access is not exactly underneath the circuit. So in some cases, they will have to create essentially a temporary access. Could be anything from mowing a path, because this can be pulled by hand. Guys in a low PSI vehicle, this could just be matted, or in some cases, they might put down geotextile fabric and place stone and then pull that up and restore it afterwards. But through wetlands, they'll be matting for sure.
Okay.
Unless they feel like they can walk it safely, they might do some shrub trimming just to get the branches out of the way, but most likely through wetlands, they'll be matting. So again, that's improve as necessary. Sounds like it's going to stay, but it's not, it's temporary. And it's called out on the ER maps with a blue and green line, and you'll often see it running underneath the circuits or as close to it. Then we've got 3 different types of access. I'll be as brief as I can. So type R, I mentioned that earlier. That's something that's exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act. It involves installing or adding stone to access that's already 12 feet wide. So in those cases, nothing needs to be done. It's at perfect grade. It doesn't need to be expanded. We'll just be adding stone. Then we've got type S. That's existing access that's still in good shape, doesn't need significant grading, but is too narrow, typically 8 to 10 feet, so we're just going to be expanding it slightly on either side or on whichever side is further from the wetlands to get it to 12 feet wide. Then type 1 access. That's our access where we do know where the historic access is. Sometimes it's easy to find when you're plugging around out there, but it's been so eroded that it needs a better subbase. So they'll first come in and they'll grade that 12-foot wide area. They'll put down that stone subbase, and then they'll put that additional road stone on top of it. But again, 12 feet wide for all of them. Now we're getting into the things that are exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act as well. That has to do with structure replacements. So within Groveland, we have a number of structures that are being replaced. All of them are existing wooden structures, and they will be steel structures, either direct embed, meaning they're installed within a metal culvert in the ground, or they will be concrete caissons, so they'll have a concrete foundation. Those concrete caissons are needed for our difficult terrains where it's muckier often, but for the most part in Groveland, it's due to tension in the circuits above. Especially if they're going through those turns, there's a lot of pressure on both sides, so they need a more stable foundation. So that's the purpose of having that concrete foundation in those areas. Oh, I skipped one. So the conduit. So you might have seen conduit called out in the notice of intent and a yellow line outside the King Street substation on the ER maps. This is the location where we ran into trouble with the OPGW wire. So again, it's such a crowded area, and with that wire needing to be low, there was no safe way to get that into the substation in an aerial position. So the tactic was taken to, from the end of the BC line, have a singular trench to hold two conduits, which basically are those OPGW wires, but underground, and connect from those poles to the substation. But there's a narrow BVW around the substation. This is mainly fed by stormwater. The topography around there all just leads straight down to this low spot by the substation. And you can see also that it has an intermittent stream that flows off of it around the corner and away from the site. So the stormwater regime is really maintaining this. It doesn't appear to be a groundwater-fed wetland, but rather stormwater. So the purpose of installing this conduit can be mitigated as much as possible. So the trench that would be installed, again, about 10 feet wide, you would have sediment and erosion controls around the outside to avoid the sediment leaving the area. They would take that topsoil when they're excavating that, leave it to the side, install the trench, pour the concrete in place, and then they would fill back in that trench with what they excavated, top with that wetland soil, and then seed with a wetland seed mix to restore it. It's a tight area, but with the sediment and erosion controls that are proposed in the EG 303, we're pretty confident that it can be done quickly and cleanly. There's a lot of potential for it to be done outside of wetter seasons to avoid the trouble of it being mostly stormwater fed. And there's also a lot of opportunity in the area for dewatering away from the trench, but still back into the wetland, so the wetland isn't being drained of any stormwater. So that concludes the conduit. So we're just down to the last two things, which are probably the most minor. These are things we've already mentioned before. They're mowing of vegetation along the access roads, and mowing on the work pads, as well as the installation of matting. It counts as a BMP under the EG 303. We have a number of details on it, but essentially this construction matting is 4-foot by 16-foot timber mats. They're quite heavy, but they're very solid and can support that weight, as well as distributing it, so we're not ripping up the root mats in the wetlands. They also can be used to span streams, and in many cases with the difficult topography we've got in parts of Groveland, they can be used to create an elevated work pad that works with the slope, requiring less grading. So those are all of the activities. Do I have any questions on the activities before I get to the finishing touches?
The area down near Bear Hill Road is actually wet, like it's a standing water. And there's several structures that are actually in it. How are you getting to those structures?
I think I can picture what you're saying. I'm trying to pull it up on my...
On, like, photo page 10?
Gotcha. I'm pulling up the ER map off of Bear Hill Road. So on the ER map, that's page 8. Yep, so the access that is proposed through that wetland that has standing water is the same as any situation where we have a wetland crossing. They'll be using timber mats to mat down that slope across the wetland, span any stream channels they encounter within the wetland, and then back up the other side. But I will say in this case, this access is not for construction. The only purpose of that access is for OPGW underslung wire installation, so they won't be needing to drive cranes or big trucks down there. It's essentially just the appropriate amount of matting to be able to get a couple guys walking across it with the wire and up the other side.
Okay, so are those structures that are in there, are they being replaced or not?
There's no structures in that wetland. Do you mean Seven Star?
Bear Hill.
Yeah, if you said Bear Hill, the structures that are just to the south of there are structure 211 and 210. And they're on either side of that wetland.
I'm looking at structure 218.
Oh, yep, that's Seven Star. Seven Star.
I think she's right. Wow.
Yep. Yeah, that's north of Seven Star. I know sometimes with town borders that
Well,
might be lines.
Well, okay. I know when you're in Bear Hill, you can see the right-of-way. I'm not exactly sure if the structures are in the water. But regardless, whether it's Seven Star.
There
or
are
Bear
structures
Hill.
in the water.
So I'm
north of
just
Seven
curious
Star.
how you guys deal with that.
Yeah, so in those cases, again, they'll be building out a construction pad with those timber mats again, where they will go in first. They have to leave the existing structure in place so it can hold the wire. So they'll be creating a sort of a well around the area where they'll be placing the replacement. They have the ability to bring in frac tanks if it's needed to dewater that area and keep it dry.
Right, so it's like a coffer dam around it? That's-
Yeah, essentially, to sort, they build whatever is needed to keep the water out, with the sediment and controls on hand. And again, with this being a really tight right-of-way and there being so much wetland there, they may need to bring in one of those frac tanks to hold the dewatering.
Okay.
And then they will do the drilling, install either the concrete caisson in one case with 218, and with 217, that's a direct embed, so install the culvert and then the poles.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Were you going to talk about the habitat and the rare species and this, per the determination letter?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Anticipated to result in a take for 2 rare species?
Sure.
And then also, I saw a list, just if you could also speak to the invasives management, because I did see a plant list that included an invasive.
Was it probably a seed mix in the EG
Yes,
303?
yes.
Yeah, we can address that. It's been brought to our attention at another meeting. It's a standard seed mix. However, we can make changes. Certainly, it can be conditioned to have a substitute seed mix.
Great.
But to the rare species, so we're currently in the process of filing our CMP. We just submitted our draft CMP to Heritage, so this is still an ongoing conversation. So I wish I could tell you the conclusions, but as of right now, our biggest effort was showing Natural Heritage that we'll be complying with all time of year restrictions
Okay.
for the amphibian and the reptile species that are mapped within Groveland. The main focus, especially for Groveland and given the timeline of the project, is avoiding the placement of matting in vernal pools. Within Groveland, obviously, we have quite a few. So the hope is to be able to, and the plan right now is to install mats from fall and winter and be done with any installation of mats before spring.
Okay.
This would allow for, the amphibians to come in and still use those wetlands in the areas that we're not matting. There's no vernal pools that we are completely covering. Most of these vernal pools still have area, and there's many adjacent wetlands that have suitable habitat that they could relocate to, but the main focus is to not, obviously, place something on top of the egg masses while they're in there. The other focus is to not remove mats also during that time of year. Pulling out a mat can also cause a lot of disturbance to these vernal pool species, so we're also avoiding that entirely. With regards to the reptile species, there is critical habitat to that turtle, which has to do with overwintering habitat. Within Groveland, we only identified one, and that is that one off of Seven Star.
The intermittent stream, you mean?
No, it's a perennial stream that's been influenced by beavers, so now it kind of covers the whole right away. So that's
Argilla Brook?
between 217 and 218. I'm not sure if it has a name.
Okay.
Essentially, that was the only area that had suitable overwintering habitat. So the critical piece of that is avoiding the placement of matting when they might be already burrowed into the soil. So that's typically from the end of fall to the start of spring. But very thankfully, with the project schedule right now, they won't need to be doing any placement of matting within this wetland during that critical time. They'll be able to place it beforehand so they can choose another area around that wetland So that satisfied that time of year restriction. But as I said, we're still in talks with Natural Heritage, so we don't have conclusions yet, but we are anticipating that Heritage will require daily monitoring as required by the turtle protection plans, which will double up with amphibians, all the other BMPs that are associated with that, such as adapting our sediment and erosion controls to make them navigable to these species, turtle sweeps, identifying any rare eggs. If they happen to be in an area that's too close to work, they can be cordoned off. We can put up, certain types of barriers to keep that separate. There's a number of activities, but that's where our daily monitors come in place that can work with the crews, especially during those fragile times of year, mainly spring and summer. Did you have any other questions about rare species?
So you mentioned placing the mats, you don't want to place it in the wintertime when they may be burrowed, but your construction starts in Q4 of '26 is the plan? Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
is that matting, or would that be the one in the summer of 2027 where you would start?
So the extra complicated thing about Groveland, which I'm sorry for you all, since you don't have a full view of the schedule, essentially the B and C line need to start far sooner. So they are going to be going ahead with the matting work as soon as they can, potentially this fall into the winter. However, this one section that was identified to have overwintering habitat is 394 line only. So in that case, they won't need to do any of that installation. 394 will be starting in the summer of 2027, which is ideal, because then they would be able to get out there, place those mats, and also know the conditions out there with how high the water is.
Right.
For an area like that that's just quite inundated, they'll be able to better design it. Anchor mats, especially, given that there's a channel through here, they'll likely be anchoring these mats for those work pads in the access. But they would be able to do it well ahead of that time where the turtles would be potentially going into the system.
Okay.
And sorry, what did you say about, there was a blank page about invasive species management. Can you back up to that and tell me how we avoid invasive species back there?
You're probably
Not
referring
weed.
to the EG 303?
Yeah.
Because we don't have much of a description in the narrative.
Blank, yeah.
There's a number of standard procedures that are conducted to control invasive species spread. I can get a greater list. I don't, unfortunately, have the EG 303 tactics for invasive species memorized, but a lot of it has to do with not disposing of vegetation and parts of the right-of-way, not introducing anything new. Certainly, we can get a broader description of those
you.
tactics,
Okay.
but, sorry.
Hannah, can I ask you about the habitat creation part of the project? Where the permanent impacts are happening and where the habitat creation's happening and how that location was chosen?
Sure. So under the 401, which we're currently in the review state for, we're required to provide mitigation for the replacement of any structures within wetlands. Even though they are roughly in kind, it's still seen as by the 401 process as a new fill within BVW. So at a minimum, we were required to provide 1-to-1. Within Groveland, we had wrong numbers. Within Groveland, we had 939 square feet. So that accounts for all the direct in-bed structures being 6 within BVW and 10. 6 direct in-beds. So those are the ones within the culverts, and 4 concrete caissons. So the total square footage of those new structures, not accounting for the fact that the old structures are sort of canceled out, typically not removed though, because it causes more disturbance to excavate those pole butts from the wetland. But I digress. The total impact being 939 square feet, we're required to replace create a replication wetland area that is at least 1,878 square feet. What we have proposed is slightly more, 1,966 square feet. And this is proposed within, I believe, Groveland W4. That's on page 2 of the ER maps. Also at the very end of the notice of intent application, that's where the wetland replication information is, where you can see the plan. But essentially, if you look at structure 185, there's sort of a hole. That area clearly was used as historic access by dirt bikes. It was quite ripped up, and there's compacted material there. So the purpose of this area to be created is to pull out that compacted material, add additional wetland soil, and then plant it with species that are complementary to the existing wetland. So that it's a mix, but largely shrub dominated. So we'll be placing interspersed shrubs and wetland seed mix in that area. And the methods of protection are still being discussed with 401. They also, when we did our site walk, they also had concerns about the ATV activity. Although we can't completely prevent it from going through the right-of-way at all, there is a great opportunity with that deep, heavily vegetated wetland on both sides and next to the road to place some large boulders on the northeastern side. That would prevent them from going through the wetland replication area. They'd have to go into the woods or turn around. So in terms of the selection, we actually had quite a hard time in multiple towns finding the right location because it needs to meet a lot of criteria, not just for the conditions of the wetland, but also for avoiding future disturbance. So we don't want to put any wetland near a structure. We don't want to put any wetland on an access or that would cover an access and would then need to be matted in the future. We also wanted to make sure it wasn't already being disturbed heavily without a way to avoid it. And we also wanted an access that was easy to gain. So say this is rebuilt in or established in the spring, and by the end of summer, they need to go back in and replant it. We don't want them to have to map through a giant wetland to gain access to it. We want them to have easy upland access. So within Groveland, this is one of the areas we found. And even though it does have that past disturbance, because this area is so readily able to be turned into a wetland just by removing that hard packed material, this is actually the wetland replication area we were most confident about. So that's the selection process. In terms of when it would be built, given that the 394 line won't be wrapping up work until about the fall of 2028, this might be postponed until spring of 2029. It totally depends on the restoration efforts. Obviously, they don't want to still have mats in that area or be trying to force this in before the end of the season. So it could end up extending, but they'll want to be replacing or building this area within a proper season so that it has the best chance of surviving.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's still heavily used.
Yeah. We
Whether
run
legal
into
or not.
ATVs a lot. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that typical, like boulder, placement of boulders to reduce?
Sometimes that's really the best thing because we did discuss with this area, that section keeps going through Georgetown, and that was some of the section where we found the most turtle nests. But those turtle nests were found because of the ATVs ripping up the roads and creating that lovely sandy exposed habitat. So they kind of follow each other. So in many cases with other projects, we've looked into how can we prevent this area that we're restoring from being disturbed. Sometimes it's very difficult because people's backyards lead to the right-of-way, or there's trails that, we don't have ownership of. So sort of the best case scenario is to have a natural barrier, which this wetland has on one side with that dense shrubs next to the road, and then placing some boulders on the other side so they can't go into it without, I don't know, jumping it themselves.
So I have a question, going back to the wood and the steel posts. So when you used wooden posts, were they just set in the ground, or did they also use concrete to stabilize them?
So I had this discussion recently with a project engineer. He said that typically the standard, given the age of these poles, was just to drive them into the ground. Because of that, because I was trying to get his opinion on how big these structures are currently to understand the difference in size. And he said, you know, because it's natural trees and they likely don't have that culvert to hold them in place, they could range anywhere from I think 3 to 7 feet in diameter. So we didn't find that there's a many of them that would likely have that culvert base. So that accounts for that change in width, as well as the width of the steel structure that's being replaced as a direct embed.
Yeah. Are there going to be any more wooden posts left after the project is complete?
Nope, they'll all be gone.
All steel?
Yep. The great benefit of having these steel structures, not only do they have the longevity against wind, ice, and other natural features, they have better grounding, so there's better protection against lightning. And also longer longevity for that foundation, which sometimes is a critical issue that causes a need for an emergency repairs. So that's definitely the benefit. The longer it is able to stay in place, the less they'll have to go back out into the right-of-way and cause disturbance to the wetlands and wildlife habitat.
Are the wooden ones all soaked in creosote or pentachlorophenol, or what sort of preservatives were used on the wooden ones?
They're still treated. Tim, I wouldn't know what. Might just introduce Tim Sullivan, who's the applicant, so I don't misspeak.
Hi, folks. Tim Sullivan with National Grid. I recognize several of you from other projects in the past. So similar to the question that Chairman Dempsey asked, there's been an evolution over time, and so at some point in the past, those structures that were wood were probably creosote treated, and I would say current wooden poles that we're using are similar to a pressure treated lumber type chemical. There's probably a couple steps in between here. I don't know specifically. There's two different lines. So the 394, if you're familiar with that right away. Well, let me take a step back. If you're familiar with our King Street substation, everyone familiar with that is. So this is King Street. So south of King Street, we have all three of the lines. North of King Street, we just have the 394. So the 394 is the taller one. That's a higher voltage. The two shorter ones, if you're south of King Street, are the B and the C taps. So they're different times they were built, and then also over time something gets hit by lightning. There's woodpecker damage, and those structures have been replaced. So I couldn't give you a definitive answer, I guess, about if you asked me what year is pole number 62, I could probably find that out, but I don't have that information, readily at my fingertips.
But that would be another advantage also, fewer nasty wood preservative chemicals. Even though if they've been there a long time, they've leached out already.
Yeah, that's typically, our new standard is just about everything is steel. I mean, there's certainly, circumstances in a storm event, emergency, something like that, where wood is what's available and what we need to do. But if it's a planned project at this point, we're more or less going completely to steel.
Thanks.
And the older ones, they're gonna be cut off ground level, the wood poles, you're not gonna pull them up, right?
I think as we discussed with Andrew, most of them will be removed. The only ones that we tend to want to leave in place are those in wetlands.
Yeah, so our standard, yeah, that's correct. So our standard in wetland, unless an agency would like us to, is we prefer to leave them in wetlands because chasing them and and removing them, in our opinion, is a larger impact. In some cases, an agency or a body would prefer us to remove them. So at that point, we can have a conversation about that. But our typical standard is to leave, cut them at
You
grade.
cut them off at ground level?
Yep.
So-
Can we circle back to those structures 217, 218? Maybe there's others that are in standing water.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine how you would implement that, put these mats out in standing water. I have no idea how deep that water is, but how does that work? It's just, you just layer upon layer of these mats to get into dry, so they're above the water level?
Yeah, it's quite the artistry. Honestly, I've seen some quite professionals with these matting trucks go out there. So they start one by one so that they can go out. They go slowly, and as they place it in, they have an understanding of how deep it's going. They'll probably have some information before they go into the field so that they can estimate how deep it is. That allows them to know how many mats, which is a critical part of the project. But it essentially goes steadily one by one. As they need more, they add more, and they build it up. They're able to do this in situations where there's a steep slope where they'll build up partly up the side so they have a stable platform. It's the same thing when you've got deep water wetlands, is to just go one by one. They want stable for sure, so they take their time.
And these are just enormous area. I mean, it's like around a half an acre around each of these structures that's going to be matted in standing water. That's huge.
And my
Is there
guess
anything that
it's
can
probably
be-
5-6 feet deep in some of those
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can be done to minimize that footprint? Even though it's temporary, that's huge.
Yeah, the challenge with reducing work pads when you have an area like that that's so stranded, again, that's a great example. With it being a deep and wide wetland, we need to have as much space as possible to be able to conduct the work. In some places, we're able to cut it because we've got available upland nearby to be able to bring in the materials, to have enough space to do the construction work, to install the pole, and then especially to do the overhead work where they need a decent amount of space. So that's the difficulty with this one. They're essentially having to create an island with enough space for them to safely do this work. So in a lot of other cases, we've trimmed it quite a bit or added, whereas this one, it's just unfortunately the location of the structure and the space that they need, which, yeah.
Yeah, so there's several different activities that go along, to install each one of the structures. So you probably don't need that space for every single one, but there are definitely some of the more, I guess, space requiring are when you're actually putting the structure up. So you need to have space for at least one crane, sometimes two cranes, depending on what type of structure it is. You also have to be able to get the structure, which is usually in several different steel pieces, but still a considerable piece of steel. So you need to have space for like an 18-wheeler flatbed truck and a crane and possibly another crane to maneuver all in that same space in order to get everything off the truck and up into the air. So this is pretty, the work pads we have here are standard across our system for what we're using on similar projects. So we have minimized them to the extent that we can in order to, but we still need to obviously accomplish the operation that's necessary.
And the 12-foot access is standard also?
Yep. 12-foot is able to facilitate all of the vehicles that we would need to get on and off the right-of-way.
Is there any kind of monitoring plan for ensuring things are recovering back to their baseline?
Yeah, so we don't have the final sort of plan yet, but what's anticipated is at a minimum that we'll have a weekly environmental monitor, but likely given the rare species habitat and the other conditions that will likely get down the line, we'll probably have a daily monitor who will be with the crews from the start of the day until the end. They might not have a report to do every day, but they will know where all the crews are. They'll check in with them in the morning. They'll follow their progress, especially if we've got multiple crews, and they'll be addressing things like sediment and erosion controls, understanding where the work plan is, if they need to do any turtle sweeps, to escort vehicles and such. So they'll definitely be eyes on the ground for this project on a very regular basis.
And post-construction, anything like that? Are there any requirements?
Yep, there'll definitely be at least quarterly inspections, but until the site is fully stabilized, they'll likely continue with those weekly inspections and following storm events with the precipitation of quarter an inch or more, certain snow melt occurrences as well. So likely after the work is done, depending on the time of year, which for the 394 line, it goes into winter, so they'll probably double up on those stabilization measures, whether it's adding additional hay mulch or straw mulch, even if it's erosion control blankets, if it's needed to, if it's a tricky slope, putting down winter grasses, so those will hopefully sprout during those cold seasons, if it's possible. But that might extend those weekly inspections until spring if we're not getting the stabilization that's needed.
I think longer than that, actually, yeah, Hannah. So I would say for a project of this scale that we're gonna end in the winter, I would say typical, it's gonna be probably sometime late summer, early fall before we are through like the NIPD's requirements for full stabilization. So that would sort of close out the full footprint. And then there's gonna be other specific conditions. For instance, Hannah mentioned I think you actually asked a question about the wetland replication areas. DEP is gonna have probably several years of monitoring that are specific to those areas. Natural Heritage may have some other requirements that are going to be specific. So, pieces, parts of the project, pieces of the project from the mitigation standard, that may be a couple years, but I would say, typical, it's going to be, a field season basically before, we're confident that everything's stabilized and we kind of release the contractor from those obligations.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
How do we do a site walk when there's 2 feet of snow?
Well, we might have to postpone that till closer to the next meeting. John, can you check if DEP has issued a number for the project yet while we're thinking about our scheduling here?
We've got a number, it's 0497. This was submitted back at the end of December.
0497. Okay, thanks. 030.
Yep, 030-0497.
Yep, great.
And there was a newspaper notice plus an abutters notice that just says in a line, not G. So that impacts the decision not to postpone.
Say that again.
If that impacts the decision or not to postpone
The-
approval of this, I'm just letting you know that there was an abutters notice and there was a newspaper notice. It just says in a line, not G in a line.
Oh. Okay. We apologize for the this posting on our agenda here. So, do we want to have a site visit? Okay.
On 3.5 miles?
Everything or specific?
No.
No, though,
I think we could view it from Uptack Road, from King Street, from Bear Hill Road and Seven Star Road, I
in the
believe.
replication area?
Yeah.
Yep, we can do some pretty efficient site walks. So with the Boxford Conservation Commission, I recommended one specific area because it had everything. It had all the types of work. It had a bunch of the resource areas. It's actually the opposite end of where you all will be starting. So probably that what's it called? Where I've met you before at Berry Hill Lane or
Yeah, Uptack Road.
Yep, and we met there too. Yes, so that would allow us to walk onto the right of way to see a number of the work areas as well as the replication area. I'm just looking at the weather. There is a chance that for some melt within the next week, so maybe there's a potential within 2 weeks to have a site walk. I know the right-of-way sometimes tends to hold on to the snow, but there is potentially a chance to at least see it better than we could now.
Or we could postpone it till March 7th, right before our meeting on the 11th.
Yeah, can we do March 7th, actually, because,
Well, do you want to take that risk? Because you don't know what's going to happen.
Well, it's a
Yeah, what we
risk.
might want to do is have that be our fallback position.
Okay.
And maybe shoot for the week before that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that could. So what are you saying, like, maybe the 28th,
I'm out of town.
21st?
Well, does it have to be a Pacific? Does it have to be a specific day of the week?
Well,
28th is MACC. I don't know if you all like to attend. I know I do.
what date are you saying, Terry?
Well, I'm not saying any particular day. In fact, I'm saying no particular day, or any particular day.
Okay,
So you went straight from the 28th to the 21st, and I'm saying, what's wrong with the 27th, or the 26th, or the 25th?
How about the 25th? Which is what day?
It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Anybody object?
Can you make it that day? Because I cannot.
Work from home that day.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't do that day either.
Okay.
We could potentially pick 2 days that are somewhat close to one another to see if there's a potential to be able to walk it. I know if we get another
We
snowstorm,
can
that would.
usually find a day, sometimes it takes a couple of minutes, but we can usually find a day when most people are able to do it. And that's going to be a lot easier than trying to do two.
So
Yep.
we could say maybe the 26th or the 28th, the Thursday or the Saturday of
The
that.
28th, I think, sounded like it wasn't good.
No, because,
Oh,
Well, I could find someone to join. I just wouldn't want
But it's
to
also
deprive
not
you all of
just
MACC
I mean, I
if
won't-
you were
So
going to
what
go.
about the 26th?
yeah, that's all right.
can you do that one, Jill?
Yeah, if it's in the late afternoon.
How does
Yep.
that work for you?
Yep, we can certainly make any time work. I will say with the Boxford site walk, the portion of the right-of-way that I'm imagining introducing you all to probably took about an hour and a half. So this could be done pretty efficiently, and I think still give you all a very good idea of it, with also not having to carpool to another location and park all the cars. That's difficult this time of year too. So I think we can pick one site in mind where we can fit all the cars and do a good site walk.
Yep.
In an hour to an hour and a half.
Like a 3 o'clock
So,
start?
3 o'clock.
Sure.
Should be,
See, that wasn't that hard, right?
I mean, I won't be here, but Jill's gonna be my eyeballs.
So we were thinking the 25th or the 26th?
6th, though.
26th.
26th.
And then if the fallback of March 6th or 7th works out better, I'm all for that.
Yeah, that'll have to be our fallback.
we'll see
either
when
the 6th
the
or the
winter storm
7th.
comes again.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
well,
You know
there's
it's
there's no
coming.
telling. I mean, trying to,
Yeah.
you can't predict 2 days from now, so it's crazy to try to predict a month from now.
I'm already having trouble
It
getting
could
out
be
of my
70.
driveway.
It's nice to have options.
Yes.
26th or the 7th, okay.
And John, you'll send us a reminder?
And
Thanks.
a- And a specific, well, I know locations, but.
Any comments from residents?
I don't think they're here for this hearing.
That's it, this is our only hearing.
Should we be talking about seasonal restriction, or would that be part of the Groveland?
It looks like they're requesting a.
Yeah, that would be part of the Groveland.
Okay, so we'll discuss that in the next hearing.
Are there any questions relating to our request for waiver, or should we
Well, that's
save
gonna,
that
that's
for the
gonna
next?
show up in the next,
Okay, got it.
yeah,
All
then
right.
apply to the state.
I just wanted to see if there's anything else I could provide you in the meantime between now and the next hearing, any additional questions, materials. I know we discussed invasive control. We also discussed
Yeah.
seeds within the seed mix. That's the standard.
Yeah.
To find a replacement. Was there anything else I could provide in the meantime for the next hearing?
On the seasonal restriction, which I know we're gonna talk about, you mentioned here in the narrative about, and you explained about when the salamanders and whatnot are there, you wanna place it in the winter and all this kind of stuff. So I guess if there's any other information besides that, just bring that along for next time.
Yep.
Like any other reasons or technical, I mean, obviously schedule is a big part of this, I think.
Yeah, one of the main things, obviously, as we discussed, was making sure that we're complying with the time of year restrictions, but also the schedule. One of those critical pieces is outages. So in order to be able to replace these structures and do this overhead work, we are reliant on certain outages to be in place so that no one's going without power or no one's in danger while they're doing the work. So that's another factor in the time of year that we need to be doing certain activities.
And I assume that also plays into, once you start, you need to finish. You can't take a 2 or 3 month.
Don't think we'd want to know. All right,
All right?
okay.
Is an invasive.
Oxide daisy, thank you.
Yeah.
That looks site-specific. Sorry, just writing down oxide daisy. I think we had another grass that was called out by someone on that list as well. So,
I can answer on the record if you like. So we use this form for our contractors to both certify when they're bringing equipment to the site that it's clean that they've pressure washed it, removed any seeds or anything like that. And so this is what this form here acknowledges. So we will, as equipment comes onto the site, contractors will be responsible for letting us know that, they didn't just take it from a Phragmites marsh somewhere else and bring it, brought it to our site. And then we can use this intermediate, from location to location within the project if there's, I'm not completely, there's nothing in my head that's jumping out as like a Phragmites area or something like that. But if we had something like that, we could specify the contractor, and Hannah and her team, as my eyes on the site, would do this. Say, okay, this area here has these species. You need to wash the equipment. You need to wash the timber mats that we talked about, whatever, before it goes from site to site.
Okay, great. Thank you for addressing that. Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Is there a motion to continue?
Well, are we gonna vote on the straight NOI?
No, I'd say, since we have to meet again, I think we should just continue.
And we still need a site visit.
Because we've got the site visit, we may have other issues come up.
What can we give them as a take-home to start preparing over the next month before the next hearing?
I don't know.
I mean, we haven't come up with, we haven't had any shouting matches or anything. We haven't, there hasn't been anything you've talked about that has gotten anybody upset.
No.
No, but we need a site visit.
Yeah, we're gonna need a site visit.
Right, but
But what I'm saying is, for them to go ahead, you want to have some sort of assurance that you're not heading off in a direction that's going to be completely against what our commission is going to come up with. And they haven't said anything that we're going to, block their right of way and not let them do any work, right? So what can we give them to, so they can start doing some of the preliminary planning now, rather than starting 6 weeks from now?
Well, so we'll ask you both what you would prefer. We could close the hearing tonight for the notice of intent and work on preparing the orders of condition for that. And then we can have the hearing in March and issue our decision on the Groveland notice of intent. Or we could continue this until March and close both of them at the same time and issue the orders for both. So, because typically our orders aren't separate. necessarily, so usually it's all one. So whatever you prefer, I think we could probably do either one.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I'm open to whichever is most efficient for the commission. So if
Most efficient is to do both of them at once next.
yeah, if it's a standard, if you have a standard, it's been a while, as I acknowledge since I've been in front of you, but if you have a standard set of conditions and it's, you're gonna have to pull them apart into two different documents, I don't think that's a necessary step.
But I think maybe the take-home message that we can give you, and I can't speak for the whole commission because it's not a voting issue, is I feel comfortable that what you're doing and what you propose to do is going to meet with, you haven't said anything that scared me.
Well, I'm waiting to hear what Natural Heritage says too, because I haven't gotten a letter from them yet.
For the CMP, we don't anticipate hearing any, well, we might hear, I
You never know.
don't know. We could hear something by March, but we can keep that in mind.
Well, what we'll do is we'll make our orders
Contingent.
contingent upon, meeting Natural Heritage's orders. So that's not a problem. Yeah, no, Terry, I agree, I don't think we've raised any roadblock issues. I think we would expect to be able to close the hearing in March and issue our decision without any huge things that you haven't already addressed.
So I would like to move that we continue this hearing to
March 7th.
March 7th, 2026.
Second.
Discussion?
Just checking the date.
It's not March
No,
7th.
It's gonna be the same date.
Did somebody
right?
miss?
March
Lisa?
11th.
I did.
March
It's-
11th.
It's 11th,
March 11th.
7/11.
Yeah, that's a Saturday.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was misled.
You were
Misled. All right, so we have a motion to continue the hearing to March 11th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
You
you.
did a great job, thank
See
you.
at the sidewalk.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to continue the next discussion on BZ Memorial Park to our next meeting, because we've been warned that we may be violating the open meeting law if we have this discussion. So I'll make that motion,
I will second it.
okay? Any questions on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. So I don't believe we have any update on BZ Park from the director. She was going to be here, but couldn't stay, so she had to leave. So we'll hear from her next month.
Can we have a general discussion? I have a question. I don't want to break any rules.
I think we should wait.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to skip down to correspondence. We don't have any open discussion. Tom, I would say if you have a very general question, go ahead.
So it's about, I've read all the emails, I read all the information, I saw the last email that came in, whatever, 2-3 hours ago.
Yes.
My impression from that is, I think many things could be easily resolved. I think there's some things that require more legal advice, and it seems to me like we would need to wait for legal advice to make sure we're all going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that's where we think we are. So the point being, it's almost like we wait until we get that info.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we wait to get that info to make a decision, right? We certainly could could discuss, we could have discussed things, I believe, but,
Okay.
like I say, we got that warning, so I don't want to risk it.
Yep.
Okay, next we'll go to other items not reasonably anticipated at posting. So I have three things that came up after this was posted. We need to authorize the purchase of 4 bags of calcium chloride at VZ Park. And we also have to, because of the storm and ice conditions there, which have gotten worse over the last couple of days. And also, 2 things related to, that I had found out about from the building inspector, but just able to locate what we might be able to do in the last day or so in speaking with Doug Soper at the park. So authorize 6 fire exit signs purchased for VZ Park, and also authorize the repair of ceilings under stairways and the utility room at VZ Park.
I'm sorry, could you read the last one again, Mike? What-
Authorize the repair of ceilings under the stairways and the ceiling in the utility room at VZ
Okay.
Park.
So are we authorizing to do the work, or are we authorizing a dollar amount?
No, we're not authorizing any dollar amount, we're just authorizing to purchase these things and do that work. Because we've been told that we need to take votes on everything that we do at VZ.
No, I understand that, and like the calcium chloride is a couple of bucks here or there.
Oh, I know.
But the other things, I guess I'm leery to approve something when we have no idea whether it's $20 or $2,000.
Well, the very rough estimate on the fire exit signs, they are approximately $40 apiece. And they don't require any electrical connection, so we'll be able to have Doug install them. It's just a matter of purchasing them.
Did they light
And-
up?
No.
No, they don't light up. They have material in
Battery,
them
if it's-
that don't require electric
Okay.
in order to pass the fire code for exit signs. And then as far as repairing the ceilings, my estimate on that would be approximately $300. It's minor. It's a matter of a couple of sheets of fire-rated
Drywall.
sheet rock.
$300? I'd
Yeah.
like to have that contractor.
No, it's not, what we'll be doing is Doug will purchase this stuff and he'll have a volunteer help him to install it. So it's minor stuff. Where probably the total that we're gonna spend is, less than $600.
So it's really just for the purchase of material?
Yes.
All 3 of them?
Yes, basically, yes. I mean, I just want to cover our butts here because, I'm not sure how this is all going to pan out as far as what we need to approve, but from now on, we have to vote on everything, so,
Okay, so you're comfortable putting a maximum for the material at $600?
Yes.
Is that- Okay.
yes. So I'll make that motion to purchase the calcium chloride, the fire exit signs, and the materials to repair the ceilings for no more than $600. Is there a
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. That's all we have that I have for other items not reasonably anticipated. Is there anything else, John?
Not, no.
No? Okay.
Do you
All
want-
right, John. Conservation agent update.
Excuse me.
Oh, hold on.
Do you want to see what Jim has to say?
I come up here, I expect to be able to talk.
What, yes, so,
I've
can
done-
you,
Excuse me.
Well, can you
I'm
introduce
Jim-
yourself?
I'm Jim
Thank you.
Stepanian. I've lived in Groveland many years. I remodeled the Stockton
Yes.
Pond bathroom up there many years ago. I'd like to volunteer. I'd like to donate some materials.
okay,
Apologies, the microphone is off.
Problems you have up there,
yes.
because I've
You
done
need a
it
microphone.
before.
Oh, sorry, we
That's
can't.
why I'm
Do you have
here.
the mic?
I
Yeah,
can't speak
Jim.
for the commission, but I thank you personally.
I'm sorry, I thought you just get water on.
Jim, you were appointed as a.
I'm not here as an alternate for the Conservation Committee. I'm here as a resident.
Okay, no,
I'm
but,
here to make sure everything happens up there that needs to happen. That's
Well,
all. And if
thank you.
there's problems, we're all adults. We should be able to work out the problems.
yes,
And I just was curious about what was going on.
okay,
And I stood up here expecting to be noticed, but I wasn't. So
No.
I spoke up. on
That's
my own.
fine.
I'd like to help out.
okay.
That's all.
No, no
Thank you.
problem.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yes, John, Conservation Agent update.
One of them.
I was gonna say, we're no luck with batteries tonight.
The only update I have regards the tracking of our permits. Mike and I had a discussion, and we're just going to use Microsoft Excel. Seems to be the most straightforward,
Okay.
easiest option. So that's what I've been using anyway. So
Okay.
that's really all I have.
Are there any seasonal waiver stuff that we should be,
I haven't received any more updates regarding the seasonal waiver requests.
give a list of what's not been closed?
Yes, and I can send you that right now if you want.
Well, I was hoping you would actually follow up,
Well, I have followed up. It's just I'm not getting any
not
responses.
getting any responses.
Yeah. But would you like the updated list still? Okay.
But I would like to know that there is one.
Yes, there is.
Thank you.
So how do we've had this problem before, and then things become an issue when they go to sell something, and then it becomes a panic, like with people not responding. I don't understand why. I mean, I get, I'm not saying you're not trying to get a hold of them. I'm just, like, we run into this often. And there's no,
Oh, so
there's no mechanism to get people to respond to,
Well-
closing out projects or giving us updates.
ultimately, what happens is when someone tries to sell their house and the lawyers look into things more deeply and they come across an open order, then they come back to us and ask us to close it out. So, I would say, maybe 80% of the time that doesn't happen.
Right.
And 20% of the time it does happen. And, there's not much we can do about it if we try to contact someone about closing out their orders and they just refuse to
Don't
do it.
right. Okay.
Well, and specifically with the seasonal waivers, though, where we've got fees that are associated with that, and we don't know what's going on. with-
Yeah, well, again, we're requiring them to tell us.
Yeah.
When and then they're supposed to pay the fee based on the amount of work that was done. So I think John is doing the best he can to keep up on these things.
So I'm wondering on some of those, because we oftentimes give them a window, and they feel, as an example, they think it's gonna take them 2 to 3 days, but we've given them a week window.
Yes.
Should we just send them a letter and saying, okay, we haven't heard back from you, our assumption therefore is that you used all 5 days, therefore.
Send them like
your
an invoice?
is
Yeah.
X.
So what do you do, tell us, John, what you're doing about that?
Yeah, I mean, for the individuals who I have like phone numbers, I've called and left messages, and then I've sent them emails twice for people I haven't heard back from.
But
So
how many of there are of those recent, seasonal waiver, restriction waivers.
There's some trees, I think, and there was maybe a septic.
6 or 7 people who haven't responded.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. And they owe us money?
Maybe.
Hang on.
I'm not sure.
That's maybe.
Yeah, true.
All right, so,
I guess I would suggest maybe something like that. Maybe we, once, John has time to take a look at it all to see what's on, and then maybe we just get to the point where we send them a letter and say, hey, you haven't contacted us.
Pick the maximum
Here's our
amount.
assumption.
Send them an invoice.
Yeah, well,
So,
unless we hear from you with proof of completion, this is how much we expect you owe.
Charge.
Yeah.
so to clarify, that number included both people who have responded but haven't requested their COC yet.
Right, okay.
And it also includes people who have not acknowledged the request at all. So,
Oh,
And invite them to come to, or send it, or update us. All we really want is an update.
yeah. Okay.
But if there's money that's owed us, then we should have that money.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, maybe for, not to give you work, but maybe for next month,
Fine.
just to, if you can figure out and say, hey, here's the things that were active communication, we're gonna get it settled. Like, and I think not having a COC is, like Mike said, that's their problem when they go to sell it.
But that might be 10 years from now.
Right, but then it's, I don't know what the, I mean, we can't charge them anything, but the people who haven't gotten back to us with details about the waivers, that I think we can maybe use that as sort of a more forceful approach to get their attention. Just my suggestion, I don't want to speak for them.
Nope,
yeah, no, I agree. But ultimately, people can choose to ignore us, unfortunately.
Well,
until-
maybe,
Until their lawyer tells them, you better take care of this.
it sort of goes back to how we, many, many years ago, we would do things, like we've learned, for example, on the signposts, there's one glaring example that I'm thinking of. You don't get certificate of occupancy, or you don't get a sign-off from us until you've installed that.
Yes.
And we've gotten better, I think, working with inspectional services to not sign off on things without things being complete. But maybe there's some mechanism we can come up with here where maybe they deposit something with us, and then they, if it's a fee-based thing, they give us the full amount, and then they come back with a report on, we actually worked these 2 days.
Well, what,
And then we owe
we could not issue the permit until they paid the fee, and then if they wanted to come back, they could ask for a refund of the days that they didn't end up working.
Oh, I love that.
That's personal reason, and they have to get a hold of John and say, I finished on whatever Thursday,
Yep.
and John can take a
Yep.
look. Are they finished, yes or no, or
All
something
right,
like
so
that.
so that's a procedural change.
Going
that we'll
forward.
Probably do. So let's remember that the next time we get requested
And by
for-
remember
So-
that,
yeah.
Well,
Looking
does
at
that-
John, the
but
brain bank over there.
Financially, then,
Yes.
who's I mean, is that the town now making rebates to people, or?
Yeah, there's a process you have to go through to rebate.
It's more
some-
like a reward.
A reward.
reward.
I don't
The
know.
more you
Giving
spend.
you
If
money
you're
back.
rebating,
The town giving you money back, that's a reward?
Yeah, well,
So do we have anything on the application for, when they apply for the
seasonal. waiver.
seasonal order, that they have X amount of time, within this time, they have to be back in front of us to update us?
Well, we normally state that in the permit. We would say,
In the
we're
order-
granting a seasonal waiver for X number of days at this fee.
Okay.
And we'll just add that you have to pay it before, you can start work. And will be issue a refund if you don't work the X number of days. So it's like a matter of really adding a couple of sentences to any permits with the
I
seasonal.
think we need to think about this.
Okay.
I just, now we're asking people for a chunk of change up front,
Well,
I'm just I'm trying to get
No,
people
I-
to, how
I
they
get it.
respond. I mean, the fact that they can't even
I,
return a phone or
I
phone
think,
call is
I think
frustrating.
we try first with the letter that says, this is what you owe, which is the maximum for the amount of time we allowed them, see where that, I guess, I'm just concerned about when we start becoming this, a bank,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
No, I get it.
And then we're responsible for their money, and who knows what they
probably
can
have
come back with.
Escrow and
Yeah,
and
right.
interest.
Oh, my
and-
God.
So,
yeah, no, you bring up good points, Bill.
Yep.
so.
This is good food for thought for like next August.
Well, we could get seasonal. there
I guess,
are-
yeah, somebody could come in,
For the spring.
yep.
You know,
What if we look
Typically-
very stern at every new ones and just stare at them for a
All right.
I mean, we
while,
could
so-
also revisit whether or not we need seasonal restrictions, period.
Yep,
yeah,
that's
we
always an
could do
option.
that, too.
We could.
Typically, for most seasonal restrictions, the people pay for the amount of time that they request. It's when, you know, that there's too much vagueness to how long it's gonna take or when they're gonna do it, and then we allow people to kind of, you know, say, all right, during the month of February, you can do this work up to 5 days, and we think it's only gonna be 2 days, but, you know, it will allow you to work up to 5 days and tell us at the end and how much you actually did, and you pay us then.
And I think,
Those cases are not the majority.
No, they're
I
not.
think we're very generous.
Yeah,
when-
we're
when we give them the
trying to work
time,
with them.
Yeah,
But they do owe us until,
Let's do a flat rate.
According to current policy.
a flat rate.
Up to 5 days, you pay this, up to 10 days, you pay that, up to 20 days,
Yeah,
you pay
that's-
this.
that's another
That way, there's no
possibility.
bank, there's no refund. If you
Well,
don't do,
That's a reasonable thing.
Possible.
Oh, always thinking.
Well, stuff, yeah, especially like septics, you know it's not gonna be a day, but it's probably not gonna be 5 days.
right.
So we
All
can
right.
come
All
up
right,
with something.
anything else?
So we can't decide this tonight.
No.
So, put that on the next month agenda, fees and seasonal restrictions, something to that effect, or, you know, we'll fill it out, but we'll try to come up with it, at least have a discussion and maybe be able to vote on a decision.
Thank you.
But good points, good points. All right, we have some minutes to
Move to
approve.
approve the December 10th,
Well-
2025 meeting minutes with the strenuous request that Stephanie Grimm be known as Stephanie Bartlett.
Where was I Stephanie Grimm? I only saw Stephanie Bartlett everywhere. Am I Stephanie Grimm also?
Oh, you sure are.
the cat is out of the
I
bag.
thought that was the one you were talking about.
No, I
Oh,
was
that's
thinking-
funny.
But also, I think I just, when I was talking about leaving
Where's Stephanie Bartlett?
Oh, Stephanie
everywhere
Grimm, right
throughout here
here.
except.
Oh, there's
Right
one.
there in the
Yep.
beginning.
Anyway, John, you
Oh,
got
yeah,
some,
Stephanie Grimm.
you got
That-
some answering to do.
When I was talking about snags, that I like them to be left for wildlife in general, not just bat habitat. Because owls live in snags also.
You want me to change that?
If you could just cross out bat and maybe
So it
put
actually
wildlife.
wasn't unanimous, because it was.
But at the time, I think you just said bat.
Well, I said, for example,
Stephanie Grimm
bats.
texted me,
Ah.
not a member of this.
No, well, incorrect.
Okay, but that's sort of,
Because porcupines live in snags also.
yeah, but if we're gonna start taking minutes for things that are implied,
No, I said wildlife, well, I said habitat, for example, bats.
okay.
But I did not, it's not just bat habitat, it's all kinds of things. Rely on snags.
Okay, but now we're sort of adjusting the minutes to what you were
Well, I can
thinking
go back and
about.
watch the tape and make sure it says what it says.
So what are we doing with these minutes?
Well, we're correcting Stephanie's surname in all.
Multiple
In
places.
all forms of,
Okay,
So you've been kicked out of the Grimm group, huh?
Oh, darn it. I was looking for some inheritance.
all right. Any other corrections besides
that's,
that?
that was a glaring one.
All right, so do you want to make a motion to accept them with the corrections?
Yes, I already have.
All right, all right. Moved and seconded that we accept approve the December 10th, 2025 minutes with corrections. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. All right.
I'm gonna-
Our next meeting is scheduled for
March
March
11th.
11th, 2026. And I'll take a motion to
Move to
adjourn.
adjourn at
Second.
8:30.
All in favor
Aye.
of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, everyone.